Welcome back to my channel Knowledge Chronicle.
Have you ever wondered how we went from food scarcity to food surplus in a country like India? How did crops suddenly start yielding more, resisting pests, and surviving tough conditions? The answer lies in one revolutionary science: plant breeding. In today's video, we are diving deep into how plant breeding became the backbone of modern agriculture. From the green revolution that fed millions to creating disease-resistant, pest-tolerant, and nutrition-packed crops, we're covering it all. So, grab your notebook, stay with us till the end, and discover how plant breeding is silently shaping your plate of food. What is plant breeding? Let's begin with the basics. Plant breeding is the intentional modification of plant traits to create better plant varieties. Ones that yield more, resist diseases, survive harsh weather, and offer better nutrition. This is not a new concept. Humans have been practicing plant breeding for over 9,000 years. All our modern-day wheat, rice, maize, fruits, and vegetables have evolved from their ancient wild varieties through centuries of selection and hybridization. Traditional plant breeding involved selecting the best plants from a crop and using their seeds for the next season. Over time, this created desirable varieties. Modern plant breeding, however, uses advanced tools like genetics, tissue culture, and molecular biology to speed up the process and make it more precise. Why do we need plant breeding anyway? Now, why is plant breeding so important? Can't we just manage farms better or, use more land? Well, we've already reached the limits of available land and resources. Better irrigation and fertilizers help, yes. But honestly, they only go so far. Plant breeding allows us to, increase crop yield, improve nutritional quality, make crops disease and pest resistant, and increase tolerance to drought, heat, or even salty soil. In simple words, more food, better food, and stronger crops, even in tough conditions. Let's look at the biggest success story so far: the Green Revolution in India. Back in the 1960s, India was struggling to feed its growing population. But then came a wave of high-yielding, disease-resistant wheat and rice varieties. Thanks to plant breeding, our wheat production rose from 11 million tons to 75 million tons, and rice from 35 to nearly 90 million tons by the year 2000. Scientists like Norman Borlaug developed semi-dwarf wheat in Mexico. Indian scientists adapted those varieties like Sonalika and Kalyan Sona. Similarly, rice varieties such as IR8 and Taichung Native 1 led to Indian varieties like Jaya and Ratna. This agricultural boom didn't just meet domestic needs, it actually allowed India to export food. Let's now break down the 5 major steps of a successful plant breeding program. 1. Collection of variability. This is basically gathering all possible versions of a crop, including wild relatives. This collection, called germplasm, contains different genes that can be used in breeding. So, in this step, breeders start by evaluating the germplasm and picking out plants that have really desirable traits, like disease resistance, better taste, or maybe high protein content. These selected plants are then grown out and purified, to develop pure lines. Now this is where the real work begins. Let's say one plant has a really high yield and another is super resistant to diseases. Breeders cross-pollinate them, which means transferring pollen from the male part of one plant to the female flower of the other. But honestly, only a handful out of thousands of these crosses will actually end up showing both the traits breeders are looking for. From all the offspring, scientists then select the plants that actually show those desired traits. These promising plants are tested very carefully over several generations, just to make sure their genetics stay stable and the traits remain uniform. So finally, the best new varieties are grown first in research stations and then, in farmers' fields across different zones. If these varieties actually outperform the existing crops, they're officially released for cultivation. Plant breeding for disease resistance is, honestly, super important. Crop diseases can be absolutely deadly. Fungi, bacteria, and viruses can destroy between 20 to 30% of a harvest, or sometimes even the whole crop. Breeding plants for disease resistance helps us avoid this kind of loss, and it also reduces the need for chemical fungicides and pesticides. Let's try to understand this with a few examples. There are fungal diseases like red rot of sugarcane and late blight of potato. Then, you've got bacterial diseases, such as black rot in crucifers. And of course, there are viral infections like tobacco mosaic or turnip mosaic. Breeding for disease resistance, it actually follows the same 5 steps. collecting germplasm, finding resistant sources, crossing them with high-yield plants, and then selecting the best offspring. Sometimes, mutation breeding is also used. This basically involves exposing plants to gamma rays or chemicals to create mutations. For instance, in mung bean, scientists developed resistance to yellow mosaic virus using this very method. Even wild species are used, believe it or not. For example, disease-resistant genes were taken from a wild variety to create a bindi okra variety called Parbani Kranti. Resistance to insect pests is another big challenge. Insects like bollworms, jacids, and borers can, totally wipe out fields. Here, plant breeders actually use morphological and chemical traits to develop insect-resistant crops. Some examples include hairy leaves in cotton and wheat, which resist jacids and beetles. Solid stems in wheat, they protect against sawfly. Smooth-leaved and nectarless cotton can resist bollworms. In maize, high aspartic acid and low sugar make it pretty unappealing to stem borers. These traits are either selected from existing varieties or introduced through hybridization. Plant breeding for nutritional quality is, super important. Even if food is available, is it actually nutritious? More than 3 billion people suffer from what's called hidden hunger, deficiencies in iron, zinc, vitamin A, and protein. To fight this, scientists use something known as biofortification, which means breeding crops to be richer in nutrients. The goals of biofortification include things like higher protein content, more healthy fats, and enrichment with iron, calcium, vitamins A, C, and so on. Some examples include maize hybrids with double the lysine and tryptophan. There's also Atlas 66 wheat, which is used to improve protein in other varieties. Iron-rich rice contains about 5 times more iron than regular types. The Indian Agricultural Research Institute has developed vitamin A-enriched carrots, spinach, and pumpkins. Plus, there are vitamin C-rich tomatoes and bitter gourd and protein-rich beans and peas. So plant breeding isn't just about filling bellies, it's about building stronger, healthier bodies. So, as climate change gets worse, water becomes more and more scarce and our population just keeps growing, the importance of plant breeding is honestly only going to increase. Imagine crops that can grow in salt water, survive 50 degrees Celsius heat, need way less water, and even contain complete nutrition. All of this, is actually becoming possible thanks to advanced genetics, biotechnology, and genome editing tools like CRISPR. But even today, traditional plant breeding continues to be the foundation of agriculture, especially in developing countries. India's agriculture, which employs 62% of the population and contributes 33% to our GDP, depends heavily on continued innovation in plant breeding. So there you have it. From feeding billions through the Green Revolution to developing crops that fight disease, pests, and malnutrition, plant breeding has been a quiet hero of modern civilization. It's a blend of ancient knowledge and modern science, working together to secure our future. If this video helped you understand the magic of plant breeding and its importance, then don't forget, your one like, share, and subscribe will help us create more valuable content. Stay tuned with Knowledge Chronicle, where we decode science, life, and innovation in the most exciting way possible. See you in the next one.